Barack Hussein Obama II is an American politician who served as the 44th President of the United States from 2009 to 2017. A member of the Democratic Party, Obama was the first African-American President of the United States. Obama's father, Barack Obama, Sr., was a teenage goat herd in rural Kenya, won a scholarship to study in the United States, and eventually became a senior economist in the Kenyan government. Obama's mother, Ann Dunham, grew up in Kansas, Texas, and Washington state before her family settled in Honolulu. In 1960 she and Barack Sr. met in a Russian language class at the University of Hawaii and married less than a year later. When Obama was age 2, Barack Sr. left to study at Harvard University. Shortly thereafter, in 1964, Ann and Barack Sr. divorced. Obama saw his father only one more time, during a brief visit when Obama was 10. Later Ann remarried, this time to another foreign student, Lolo Soetoro from Indonesia, with whom she had a second child, Maya. Obama lived for several years in Jakarta with his half-sister, mother, and stepfather. While there, Obama attended both a government-run school where he received some instruction in Islam and a Catholic private school where he took part in Christian schooling. He returned to Hawaii in 1971 and lived in a modest apartment, sometimes with his grandparents and sometimes with his mother. She remained for a time in Indonesia, returned to Hawaii, and then went abroad again, partly to pursue work on a PhD, before divorcing Soetoro in 1980. For a brief period his mother was aided by government food stamps, but the family mostly lived a middle-class existence. In 1979 Obama graduated from Pana School, an elite college preparatory academy in Honolulu. Obama attended Occidental College in suburban Los Angeles for 2 years and then transferred to Columbia University in New York City, where in 1983 he received a bachelor's degree in political science. Influenced by professors who pushed him to take his studies more seriously, Obama experienced great intellectual growth during college and for a couple of years thereafter. He led a rather ascetic life and read works of literature and philosophy by William Shakespeare, Friedrich Nietzsche, Toni Morrison, and others. After serving for a couple of years as a writer and editor for Business International Corporation, a research, publishing, and consulting firm in Manhattan, he took a position in 1985 as a community organizer on Chicago's largely impoverished Far South Side. He returned to school 3 years later and graduated magna cum laude in 1991 from Harvard University's Law School, where he was the first African American to serve as president of the Harvard Law Review. While a sophomore associate in 1989 at the Chicago law firm of Sidley Austin, Obama had met Chicago native Michelle Robinson, a young lawyer at the firm. The two married in 1992. After receiving his law degree, Obama moved to Chicago and became active in the Democratic Party. He organized Project Vote, a drive that registered tens of thousands of African Americans on voting rolls and that is credited with helping Democrat Bill Clinton win Illinois and capture the presidency in 1992. The effort also helped make Carol Moseley Braun, an Illinois state legislator, the first African American woman elected to the U.S. Senate. During this period, Obama wrote his first book and saw it published. The memoir, Dreams from My Father, 1995, is the story of Obama's search for his biracial identity by tracing the lives of his now-deceased father and his extended family in Kenya. Obama lectured on constitutional law at the University of Chicago and worked as an attorney on civil rights issues. In 1996 he was elected to the Illinois Senate, where, most notably, he helped pass legislation that tightened campaign finance regulations, expanded health care to poor families, and reformed criminal justice and welfare laws. In 2004 he was elected to the U.S. Senate, defeating Republican Alan Keyes in the first U.S. Senate race in which the two leading candidates were African Americans. While campaigning for the U.S. Senate, Obama gained national recognition by delivering the keynote address at the Democratic National Convention in July 2004. The speech wove a personal narrative of Obama's biography with the theme that all Americans are connected in ways that transcend political, cultural, and geographical differences. The address lifted Obama's once obscure memoir onto bestseller lists, And, after taking office the following year, Obama quickly became a major figure in his party. A trip to visit his father's home in Kenya in August 2006 gained international media attention, and Obama's star continued ascending. His second book, The Audacity of Hope, 2006, a mainstream polemic on his vision for the United States, was published weeks later, instantly becoming a major bestseller. In February 2007 he announced at the old state capitol in Springfield, Illinois, where Abraham Lincoln had served as a state legislator, that he would seek the Democratic Party's presidential nomination in 2008. For coverage of the 2008 election, see United States presidential election of 2008. On August 27, Obama became the first African American to be nominated for the presidency by either major party and went on to challenge Republican Senator John McCain for the country's highest office. McCain criticized Obama, still a first-term senator, as being too inexperienced for the job. To counter, Obama selected Joe Biden, a veteran senator from Delaware who had a long resume of foreign policy expertise, to be his vice presidential running mate. Obama and McCain waged a fierce and expensive contest. Obama, still bolstered by a fever of popular support, eschewed federal financing of his campaign and raised hundreds of millions of dollars, much of it coming in small donations and over the internet from a record number of donors. Obama's fundraising advantage helped him buy massive amounts of television advertising and organize deep grassroots organizations in key battleground states and in states that had voted Republican in previous presidential cycles. The two candidates offered a stark ideological choice for voters. Obama called for a swift withdrawal of most combat forces from Iraq and restructuring of tax policy that would bring more relief to lower and middle-class voters, while McCain said the United States must wait for full victory in Iraq and charged that Obama's rhetoric was long on eloquence but short on substance. Just weeks before Election Day, Obama's campaign seized on the economic meltdown that had resulted from the catastrophic failure of U.S. banks and financial institutions in September, calling it the result of the Republican free market-driven policies of the 8-year administration of George W. Bush. Obama won the election, capturing nearly 53% of the popular vote and 365 electoral votes. Not only did he hold all the states that John Kerry had won in the 2004 election, but he also captured a number of states, for example, Colorado, Florida, Nevada, Ohio, and Virginia, that the Republicans had carried in the previous two presidential elections. On election night, tens of thousands gathered in Chicago's Grant Park to see Obama claim victory. Shortly after his win, Obama resigned from the Senate. On January 20, 2009, hundreds of thousands turned out in Washington, D.C., to witness Obama taking the oath of office as president. In an effort to improve the image of the United States abroad, which many believed had been much damaged during the Bush administration, Obama took a number of steps that indicated a significant shift in tone. He signed an executive order that banned excessive interrogation techniques, ordered the closing of the controversial military detention facility in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, within a year, a deadline that was not met, proposed a fresh start to strained relations with Russia, and traveled to Cairo in June 2009 to deliver a historic speech in which he reached out to the Muslim world. Largely as a result of these efforts, Obama was awarded the 2009 Nobel Peace Prize. Yet some left-wing critics complained that he actually had adopted and even escalated most of the war and national security policies of his predecessor. Indeed, when Obama accepted the Nobel Prize in December, he said, "Evil does exist in the world and there will be times when nations, acting individually or in concert, will find the use of force not only necessary but morally justified." Notwithstanding that tough talk, there were others who criticized Obama for issuing only a mild condemnation of the Iranian government's crackdown on pro-democracy dissidents following a disputed election in June 2009. Moreover, the Obama administration's handling of national security was questioned by some when a Nigerian terrorist trained in Yemen was thwarted in an attempt to bomb an airliner headed for Detroit on Christmas Day, 2009. When Barack Obama was elected president in 2008, he became the first African American to hold the office. The framers of the Constitution always hoped that our leadership would not be limited to Americans of wealth or family connections. Subject to the prejudices of their time, many of them owned slaves. Most would not have foreseen an African American president. Obama's father, Barack Sr., a Kenyan economist, met his mother, Stanley Ann Dunham, when both were students in Hawaii, where Barack was born on August 4, 1961. They later divorced, and Barack's mother married a man from Indonesia, where he spent his early childhood. Before 5th grade, he returned to Honolulu to live with his maternal grandparents and attend Punnett School on scholarship. In his memoir Dreams from My Father, 1995, Obama describes the complexities of discovering his identity in adolescence. After 2 years at Occidental College in Los Angeles, he transferred to Columbia University, where he studied political science and international relations. Following graduation in 1983, Obama worked in New York City, then became a community organizer on the south side of Chicago, coordinating with churches to improve housing conditions and set up job training programs in a community hit hard by steel mill closures. In 1988, he went to Harvard Law School, where he attracted national attention as the first African American president of the Harvard Law Review. Returning to Chicago, he joined a small law firm specializing in civil rights. In 1992, Obama married Michelle Robinson, a lawyer who had also excelled at Harvard Law. Their daughters, Malia and Sasha, were born in 1998 and 2001, respectively. Obama was elected to the Illinois Senate in 1996, and then to the U.S. Senate in 2004. At the Democratic National Convention that summer, he delivered a much-acclaimed keynote address. Some pundits instantly pronounced him a future president, but most did not expect it to happen for some time. Nevertheless, in 2008 he was elected over Arizona Senator John McCain by 365 to 173 electoral votes. As an incoming president, Obama faced many challenges: an economic collapse, wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the continuing menace of terrorism. Inaugurated before an estimated crowd of 1.8 million people, Obama proposed unprecedented federal spending to revive the economy and also hoped to renew America's stature in the world. During his first term he signed 3 signature bills: an omnibus bill to stimulate the economy, legislation making healthcare more accessible and affordable, and legislation reforming the nation's financial institutions. Obama also pressed for a Fair Pay Act for women, financial reform legislation, and efforts for consumer protection. In 2009, Obama became the 4th president to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. In 2012, he was re-elected over former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney by 332 to 206 electoral votes. The Middle East remained a key foreign policy challenge. Obama had overseen the killing of Osama bin Laden, but a new self-proclaimed Islamic State arose during a civil war in Syria and began inciting terrorist attacks. Obama sought to manage a hostile Iran with a treaty that hindered its development of nuclear weapons. The Obama administration also adopted a climate change agreement signed by 195 nations to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and slow global warming. In the last year of his second term, Obama spoke at 2 events that clearly moved him: the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights March from Selma to Montgomery, and the dedication of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Our